4th of March, my weekend article, I touched on India and Kashmir and Pakistan, and I quoted Arundhati Roy, who said the following in the Huffington Post. Kashmir is potentially the most dangerous place on earth, the flashpoint for nuclear war. And Pankaj Mishra has written a very interesting article in Bloomberg Opinion. A community of experts is pushing India and Pakistan toward permanent conflict, he says. Peace appears to have been given a chance in South Asia. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, striving to play the statesman, has not only released a captured Indian pilot, but also detained several alleged Pakistani militants. Still, there's good reason to worry that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi might once again ratchet up tensions against a nuclear-armed neighbor as he approaches the most crucial election of his life. Modi's militant nationalism, loudly amplified by Indian television anchors, isn't the only flammable element in a volatile situation. India's burgeoning military intellectual complex also deserves the world's close and skeptical scrutiny. Their jingoism far exceeds the capacity of the Indian military, which an internal report recently revealed is encumbered with vintage equipment. Perched in privately funded think tanks, many of these connoisseurs of surgical strikes do not seem in the least shocked or disturbed that an Indian leader who has, as The Economist put it last week, made a career of playing with fire, was now playing with Armageddon by launching airstrikes into Pakistan. Then he jumps to George Kennan, 1984, arguably America's finest diplomat, was lamenting that the habit of constantly preparing for an imagined war with the Soviet Union had risen to the status of a vast addiction of American society. In India, this is Pankaj again, Hindu nationalist politicians and their sympathizers in the media have similarly turned an imagined punitive war on Pakistan into another vast addiction, and the military intellectual complex increasingly aggravates this national habit. Focused on Islamabad's backing for the militant insurgency in Kashmir, they've successfully externalized a problem that is primarily domestic. The Modi government's resolve to suppress rather than address Kashmiri demands for democracy and civil liberties. A.J. Shukla was one of the very few mainstream Indian writers on security issues to point out that the wider story in a crisis with such potential devastation is that the Modi government has launched a nationwide anti-Muslim agenda that regards Muslims as unpatriotic, Pakistan as a cunning and implacable foe, and Kashmiri separatists as its willing tools. Thus, Shukla argues, Kashmiris protesting against Indian brutality have come to be widely seen as Muslim traitors rather than the manifestations of a political problem that has to be discussed and resolved, not militarily crushed. He is a voice of sanity. I wrote about this over the weekend, saying the Indian subcontinent entered unprecedented territory. We witnessed the first tit-for-tat strikes between India and Pakistan since the 1971 war. And I said the first casualty in any war, which is what he's saying is the truth. And when I dialed up Indian, and I included Pakistan TV, but Indian TV was much more jingoistic, it was mind-boggling. The decibel level was at 11. Planes were shot down. An Indian Air Force pilot wing commander who sports the most compelling handlebar moustache I've ever seen was captured and then released. The Indian Army said they'd killed hundreds of militants in their attack, but has provided no evidence, and Pakistan is suing the Indians for eco-terrorism. Of course, Modi, and this is to to Pankaj's point, Narendra Modi is up against an election and his entire political raison d'etre has been built on the basis of make India, or is it Hindutva, great again. He cannot back down, or it will be a Jimmy Carter type moment. On the other side, we have a neophyte Prime Minister, Imran Khan, whom I must admit has displayed a very deft touch. The Indian rupee has risen beyond 70. It's got a 69 handle. This is the highest since January. And Sun Chartist interprets this as Pakistan's skirmish seemed positive for Modi winning the election.